We saw two of these parked with a bunch of other Teslas today in Clearwater, like at a charging station in a Wawa, and it was like kind of creepy. Like, because it was like 3 cars and it was 2 Cybertrucks, and it was like weird.
They're kind of cool looking though.
Yeah, like the one was wrapped. I like the way it looked wrapped better than the stainless. Like,
yeah.
For the color.
You kind of have to wrap them because that stainless is like, it gets like fingerprints and stuff from what I've seen.
Like a refrigerator.
Yeah, exactly. It's not as like, it sounds good on paper.
Yeah.
And you know that with race cars, like some ideas sound good on paper. And then when you get like halfway through like the fab work or something and you're like,
this is a horrible idea.
Maybe
when
not.
you build the headers, you go change the spark plugs and you're like, oh, these are not going to work.
Us LS guys have these kind of issues.
Mm-hmm.
Us LS guys, that sounds weird. I'm not as LS guy as I once was.
Yeah.
But I still consider myself part of that greater world.
Sure.
Even though overhead spark plugs are way superior.
Every time I work on Doug's car, I'm just like, I couldn't do it anymore. Like, once it's like every time once you see the light, it's hard to go back. You know, like now it's just like this sucks. I need 3 different sockets, 4 different wrenches, and drop every other one.
Mm-hmm. Do you check them a lot on that car, or
we have been because we've been tuning it, and then when it was on Q16. And the gasoline tends to tear them up a little bit more than the ethanol. They don't ever come out like clean.
Have you finally gotten him off Q16? Thank goodness. I had no like, you know, like dog in that fight. No reason to be like frustrated by it, but I just slightly was.
He was just a gasoline guy. He was just like, I don't like ethanol. And I was like, we're going to use ethanol.
Yeah. So, guys, today, Brett Lasala, he's on for a solo finally. It's been long time in the making. You've been on with Jim, and I think you've been on before, right? Just with Jim. You and Jim were on.
Yeah, I think it was just with Jim one.
Yeah. And then that was forever ago now, and you've done so much since then. You've started at Rife. I don't know if you say Rife or TBM, but
Motion.
You've actually started at Motion.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
so
Motion.
You've moved to Bradenton, closer to the track. Race car is going probably a full second faster than last time we talked. And all kinds of good stuff. But were you secretly hired by Doug to work on his car, and then that didn't come out until later?
Well, I think it was assumed in all of the process that, you know, hiring me to, you know, work on the business was going to also be related to my technical or abilities or mechanical abilities, because that was actually the blend of the position that I'm in. So
it felt like, you know, Doug was like, oh, yeah, we need to bring him in to, like, help with the business. And then he was like, oh, my car actually needs a bunch, so.
But in fairness to Doug, it's everyone's car. Because if I see a car and I'm friends with anyone, like, we're working on it. We're making it better. Like, we're working on Tanner's car, working on Doug's car, obviously Jim's car, my car. Carson's building the car. We go up to Iowa. I'm at Andy's house looking at his car, Dennis's car. Like, you know, I'm addicted. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, and especially, you know, you guys kind of have your formula, and everybody straying from the formula eventually gets, like, roped in to, like, you know, everybody kind of tries to go their different way and be like, I'm going to do something different, unique, and then eventually I feel like you all kind of, rein them in a little.
Well, yeah, I mean, if I personally know for a fact that this doesn't work and this works better, then it's kind of hard to, like, let someone do something that you know is going to fail, unless there's a purpose or a reason for it.
Yeah, that's fair, and that's reasonable. I was actually thinking about that when I had Jay on the other day. Like, how do you distinguish between, like, trying something new versus, like, knowing what works? You know what I mean? Because, like, you can have 2 different mindsets. Be like, well, I know this works, is tried and true, but if you just stick with that, you're gonna just be part of the pack and not doing anything unique.
I think that it changes in the sense of smaller calculated risks or changes compared to, like, something totally outside of the realm. Like, I'm not just going to start racing rotaries tomorrow because I don't know anything about them. Yes, a lot of things would translate to it, but, you know, it's going to be, you know, do something different with the fuel system or do something different with the engine. So they're still constantly doing new or different things, but it's just more calculated, I guess, would be the only way to do it. Like, you kind of know, like, what are the consequences. You just take a wider look at it instead of just jumping into it. You weigh out the options, and now, you know, being connected to so many smart people or experienced car builders or racers, you can bounce ideas off people who may have tried a piece of that before and have something to contribute to it. And then you end up with a plan before, you plan it better.
Yeah.
Than just jumping in.
That's what I always kind of like get a little bit thrown off by, because you can talk to people and know the tried and true, but then you're just going to be at the same level they're at. If I go to induction as an example and build the car to their specs, it's going to be to their specs, and I'm going to know how fast it is, but it's going to be, nothing wrong with that. They know where to build to.
Sure. Well, and that needs to exist for most people.
For me.
I mean, if you have to bring your car to a shop to get built, you shouldn't do anything that hasn't been done before, because you don't have the ability. If you can't maybe not a lot of people can build a whole car by themselves, but if they're doing the bulk of the build and the tuning and speccing out stuff, if you don't have that mechanical or technical ability, then doing something new shouldn't be on your radar, because unless you have an unlimited budget.
Yeah.
Like that's going to be the player in it. Like if money isn't a holdback for you, then here, let's put this DCT trans behind this diesel engine and see how it goes,
Yeah, to an extent. And even you go to induction, and if you're like, oh, I want to try like this turbo or like do that different ECU and stuff, and then they're just like, well, that's not how our formula works.
Well, and from a shop standpoint, you need to control the outcome for the customer, because at the end of the day, it's coming back on you. If you let the customer dictate the build fully, I'm going to use this ECU with this turbo and this motor, and you already know that it doesn't work, or you're not sure if it works, and then you build it and then it doesn't work, and they're like, I just gave you $50,000, my car doesn't work.
Yeah, I just kind of wasted all that time and resources.
Wasted all that time and resources, and or starting over. So now who's paying? Are they paying you to do it again? So, going to an experienced shop like induction is that's the value you're buying, because they have that experience.
Yeah, and even when shops don't have a shop car and they're trying to build something for you is always a little worrisome too. Like, wait, we're going into uncharted territories here with my car. I don't know how to feel about this.
Everyone has their shops that's how it exists sometimes, right? Their lead car is a customer's car.
Yeah, and I've seen some where it's I guess it's a unison kind of mix where it's the customer's car is also kind of the shop car, where they kind of are hand in hand.
Yeah, maybe they have a part in it. And then if you're a top tier shop and you're busy enough you have all that work, you probably don't even have time to have your own car. So it needs to be running through a customer's car.
That is true.
Or you can't, if you're at the track, you can really only focus on one car well. So are you going to go there and do it, if the customer's paying you to do it, or you guys are partner in some way, it's more beneficial to be that way.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of shop owners that have cars that are just collecting dust because they just don't have time for them.
There's every engine builder, or good wiring guy or good tuner, most of those people don't have a car that they race.
That's true. I think about Joe, and he's yeah, I used to race a lot, and now it's just I don't have time for it. I have a lot of customers that
he wants
race.
to go on his boat, and and that's that. And he gets to do that through my car.
Yeah.
He gets to race in a sense, being part of the competition against other people and continuing the engine program. You have to have a car racing out front to have a top tier product, I think, though. Because you need something to test on, you need something to stay relevant, stay current, and to just to keep up or stay in front.
Yeah, I think, you and Joe's partnership is somewhat unique, because not everybody's going to do that level of thorough testing and going through engines, kind of not going through engines destroying them and being here's a bunch of pieces,
sure.
But actually learning and taking apart engines that aren't blown up.
Yeah, we've done a good job. I mean, Doug and I were actually there most of the day today, talking to Joe about some different things, and I cherish that relationship. It's most of the relationships I have right now in the racing world. It's just awesome. You get connected with good people, and and y'all end up on the same path, right? And what me and Joe have together working on that engine in the car, it's helped them better their program. It's helped me better my racing program. It's it's really good harmony.
I didn't really it was probably just me being dumb, but it took me a while to realize how like much really went into that motor development. Because like, I guess like when I first started seeing it, I was like, oh, like, you know, you just bought some like good rods, pistons, cranks, and like good rods and pistons, and then like, you know, just kind of fine tuned it.
Sure.
But like the actual development on like every little bit of like how much the skirt comes out of the sleeve and like every little bit like that, and how in depth he really went on like every little piece is really interesting.
It's really what separates Joe from a lot of companies or engine builders. That he seems very mellow and chill when you talk to him, but like, you know, his mind, he's a scientist in his mind, and he sees all the little things. Like, I mean, there's so many little things like you described that people don't think about or don't know about that go into the engine when it comes to like the finish on the outside of the sleeve material. Or like,
yeah, where you wouldn't even think
thinks of the outside of the sleeve, you think of the inside of the sleeve, or the piston rods. Like, there's, you know, and it's why we're able to run the engine so well and make so much horsepower reliably.
Yeah, I mean, that engine obviously is a freak to begin with, because did people really, like, I wonder when the Coyote started getting popular, where did people really start to think the limit was versus where it is now is such a weird thought. Because, like, 1,500, you're probably like, you know, like, that's probably a ceiling.
Yeah, I remember, because I feel like we were, like, doing that as it was coming up with my car, at least on the, you know, smaller level. Like, I remember the first time my car made 1,000 horsepower, and it was like a pretty big deal. And I remember when it made 1,600, like it was, I put 64s on the twins, and it was like blowing up the internet. Like, this Coyote car made 1,600 horsepower. And then
like what, like 17?
Yeah, that was probably 17.
So yeah, 1.0 when it put just like regular turbos on it. Nothing crazy, no crazy turbo kit, right? It was like
yeah, I mean, that twin kit, Jim built it. You know, we did it. It was just like, I had a single on the car. It was a CPR, like a bolt-on kit that you buy. Dustin had built them. That was my first turbo. It was the first turbo I've ever owned, was that car when I bought it, 2014.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
and
so
like,
then
we went through like that every step. Like, it was stock. It had a turbo, had a fuel system, had rods and pistons. And then, you know, then met Joe with the engine stuff through Jim, because he was a friend of Jim's. And
he's building Focus engines for Jim.
And then he had worked on Jim's Coyote at that point. And for then, like, I was, you know, me and Cy were hanging out and doing a lot of car stuff then. And, like, we were doing our own engines. Like, we'd have, like, a local machine shop hone it. And I'd be putting rods and pistons in it in my garage.
Oh, okay.
And then, like, I had a block sleeved from someone. I don't even remember who was sleeving blocks at that time. And then I put, like, I-beams in it and stuff. And blew up a few of them.
So you were learning before you finally...
Exactly. And then, you know, we got connected with Joe and pushed that single turbo, and that was when I was doing the 6R80 stuff big time, because the car was still pretty new then. I just refused to put a aftermarket trans in it. Like, I wanted it stock because it was like a new car.
Yeah.
It just seemed like it should...
Stubbornness a little bit, I'm sure. Yeah.
No, that was basically it. That's kind of what pushed me down the 6R80 road, was just like, the car was, it was the first, like, almost brand new car I ever bought. I was only 6 months old when I bought it. And it was like, I'm not putting a turbo for 100 in this car. Like, it's beautiful, you know, Recaro car. Yeah. Like, to me, it was like it. Like,
it is crazy to think that new of a car to just like rip out the trans and put a turbo 400 in it at the time.
Yeah, and this was just, you know, the go make pools, go to car meets. Like, obviously, I love racing. I've been drag racing well before that, just not, you know, in a high horsepower car aspect. It was much slower cars, and then motorcycles.
Well, in fairness, most things compared to where you're at now are much slower cars.
It's hard to...
Very few cars aren't in that much slower car category now.
It's true.
The categories are a lot bigger.
Getting smaller.
It's in the upper 1%.
Which is nuts. If I just think back of, like, I remember being at the dealership with PJ and Justin, my buddies, you know, we were in the cars in Fort Pierce and, like, buying the car and buying the turbo kit and, like it making 700 horsepower, and was like taking like I think for the first 2 weeks I just took everyone I knew for a ride, like just drove around the people's house, like you got to ride in this car. This is ridiculous because no one had been in a car that fast at that point. And I think it went what did it go like 10-20 on the 18s, like.
Well, and those
stock.
like that trans and that combo probably worked real nice too because
Yeah, and 700 horsepower, and even still to this day, most rear-wheel drive cars, like 800 horsepower, like that's a good street power. Like,
Yeah.
you can actually floor it and not just die.
in a heavy Mustang helps a little bit too.
Yeah, like it would, like we would make some rips on the street.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Yeah, I feel like I vaguely remember it from like early back then when like, oh man, one of my first FL2Ks I went to and it was just like all, I mean it still is, but it was
Yeah.
like all turbo Coyote cars.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like, wow, there's a lot of these. And they weren't like, you know, like light the world on fire fast,
No,
but
yeah.
there was a lot of them at the time.
Right.
And then they slowly, all of those same ones just got progressively faster.
Yeah, yeah.
I think even like Christian was there at the
Yeah.
early one. Like with the
That's where I
turbo.
met Christian, was with that car. I met him at OSW one night on a test and tune. I think I was there with Austin, and like he had his car, and like it was like, oh, cool car. It was nitrous at the time, and it's like, oh, I'm from Vero, and like that was it. Like we're still
Yep.
really good friends.
Even like Turbo Sally was there at the time.
Yeah, Chris Holmes, he was tuning my car actually. When I first put the turbo on it, he's who tuned my car.
And that car was really impressive, like super early on as well.
Yeah, like he made the 680 bump trans brake deal and bump deal.
really?
Like he was the first one that was like making the dual fuel pump deal with like the stock tank. Like Chris and Cy and like Dustin, there was like a few guys that were kind of like all doing that.
That makes
like at the
sense.
startup of it.
Yeah. And that car still is around, which is funny. It has a,
I think did he turn it into a drift car? It's still
it sold it, but it has a Barra in it now.
okay.
So
Yeah, I
the
remember he
same
was going to
chassis.
do the Barra swap. I couldn't remember if he was drifting it or if Daniel
Yeah,
was,
it
but-
got sold and now it's a Barra. So World Cup Finals rules just came out, and that's kind of, me and Jim were talking about them a little bit.
yeah.
You kind of got bumped.
I got bumped.
So,
and yeah,
Snot Rocket 2.0 got bumped.
well, I can still race Warriors versus Tres Cuatro. I just have to race under the Warriors rule set.
Okay. So
Which-
you have to change your car a little bit to fit the Warriors?
It would have to be, with a lockup, it would have to be 3,150 pounds. Or I could race it without a lockup and be 200 pounds lighter than that, which is closer to the car's natural weight. And I'd have to not run an intercooler. Because with methanol, you're not allowed to have an intercooler.
How does that work with no lockup? Would they, like, you just can't use it?
No, the lockup thing is like LDR. Like you can't even have the transmission.
That's what I
If there's
figured.
a spacer on your bell housing or the converter's in there, like you're not allowed to run. Like you
Yeah.
can't even be in the car.
That
which
sounds
is-
like a pain in
which
the
is
ass,
fair.
though. I mean,
Well, no,
for you,
so-
it sounds like a pain in the ass.
So that's it, right? Like I understand what Jason's doing. Like that's a tough race, right? Like up until, I forget who I was talking to the other day, but up until 3 years ago, there was never any crossover rules for cars like ours. Like that race was invented for the import racing classes and the domestic racing classes that already existed, and then he paired them up in a way and then added some changes to make them closer.
Yep.
Like you can run this now or run that. And then they raced off. And then a few years ago, he started adding some rules for more street style cars.
And it always brings in a lot of cars that only run eighth mile
Yeah.
to run quarter mile, which often gets scary.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Very often, I'll be honest. I've seen a lot of cars do some scary things trying to run it out the back.
For sure.
And then you see some cars that run quarter mile, and it's like, oh, this was actually really easy for them. Like, I think, who was it? Ron Rhodes that run one last year?
Yeah.
He just, like,
Yeah, his combo was.
he just kind of putts through the glass.
Yeah, he.
Shut it off at like 1,000 feet every pass.
I think they might have underestimated the nitrous jet they gave that particular combo
Yeah.
to weight. Well, and that happens. Like
You're not going to know.
The
what-
rule makers can only know, like, that's got to be the hardest job in racing. The promoters with the rules, because no matter what, someone's mad.
Well,
Like-
and, you know, you take a car that has 1,000 passes throughout the year, and they can adapt pretty well, versus even someone like you who probably doesn't have as many passes, but then you look at somebody who has even less passes, like,
Yeah,
you know, like Jared
sure.
with the green car that you
Yeah.
helped last year, like less passes, like you don't have that true broad range of like tune-up options.
No, you don't. And World Cup is it's the toughest race I've ever been to. Still is every year. the weather, the DA, the track conditions, and the amount that it changes throughout the day
Yeah.
is unlike anything you'll ever race. And the prep, you can't test on that prep, especially in Florida, because it's a mixed prep for slick and radial, because the race is for big slick tires and radials.
Yeah.
So the way he glues the track on the starting line to 100 foot, the mix of glue that he uses is different than any other track any other time of the year. And then you add in the temperature effect, and then you have something else new. Like,
plus the variable time, like you may get called to the lanes and the sun's on the track, but by the time you get to the beams, suddenly you're in the shade.
I think maybe it was the semis last year. I had 5 tune-ups from the back of the staging lanes than before we made a run, because DA changed with like 600 feet.
Yeah.
Because the amount of time that went by and the quickness that it was changing. And the DA swings there are 1,000 feet easy in a day, which on a car that you're running at like a half a pound of boost in a certain area, like we'll add a half a pound, because like that's how close to the edge of everything we get. Like a 400-foot DA swing is going to be a lot of horsepower.
And the amount of people that think and just like don't change anything or do anything, or like some cars hardly even start up once it gets that cold.
Yeah, and typically if it's getting later and the DA is dropping, that means the temperature is going down. And if there's cars not going down the track, now the track is getting somewhat worse. Like it's 40 degrees there or something. The surface is tough.
And they start to get into that, like, can't really prep because time constraint is coming.
Time constraint is coming.
And it's not their fault. It's just time constraint is coming. So they have to either sacrifice not making it to the finish line of the race, or prep more.
That got me the second year. So first year there was with my old car. I ran Street Fighter. That's when they added the rules in for like Garrett's car, and they added the rules for like Mustangs. That was the first year they started adding like TX2K street car rules.
Yeah.
And at the time, my car fit good in that class. Like it ran 7.1-ish, and was like, cool, we could probably like go 7.0 up here because the air is good and stuff. And struggled through qualifying just because of the track conditions, like I'm saying. And then first round, spun, lost, went home. Second year was the new car. Qualifying went great. We were in Warriors. I think I might have qualified first or second. Went 6:52. It was like every run was a personal best. Like the car, that was only like the second or third race of that car. It was pretty fresh. And we're celebrating, we're doing real good. We go into elimination day. Round 1, I draw a car. It was number 32 qualifier. It was a GTR. I think it went like 730s or something. So we're like, cool. Like, should be able to run our run.
They tend not to reaction time very well.
Yeah, like that on paper, that's super easy win, right? Rained in the morning, Sunday morning. Race pushed back. Now we're 2 hours behind schedule, drying the track. Typically, they prep between every class because there's 32 cars and different type of cars. Yep. And I think we were like third up or something, and they didn't get the prep because what you just said.
Time is coming.
I was in a bad spot. We were way too hot. I spun and lost.
To a GTR.
To a GTR.
That's a sad loss.
Yeah, like I said, it's the tough race.
Yeah, I think the first time though was actually Jim's fault technically. The first time you went there
because he wasn't there.
Because he wasn't.
That was the
there.
second time.
The second.
I just
time.
didn't want to bring it up. You throw him under the bus. But,
no, I mean it's fair to throw him under the bus. He had like a wedding or something, or
it was a cruise.
Yeah,
and it was a little suspect the cruise anyway.
So sorry,
a lot
Jim.
of Bud Light was drank on that cruise, I think.
So yeah, Jim takes some of the brunt of that because I recall watching the live and no one lined you up, and I was like, "Damn it, Jim!"
Yeah, well, like I was pulling up, and like I was there like by myself that year, pretty much. Like
Jay was by the car.
Jay was there, but Jay's not the lineup guy. He never has been the lineup guy. Like it's not his deal. Jay helps, make some decisions, stands over on the wall.
Yeah, I'm not really a lineup guy either. I'm starting to try to learn to be the lineup guy because I want to help my friends, but I'm just not.
Yeah.
It's not an easy job, but it's stressful.
But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like Jim was there, was anywhere over, like we missed. We needed to get better.
Yeah,
that's all there was.
Yeah, and you didn't have as many laps on the car at that point.
No, it was. I think FL2K was the first big race. They did like a street car takeover, then FL2K. Mm-hmm. That's when I lost to Garrett. when he like drove past me at like 1,000 foot.
Yeah,
that race,
yeah.
the video went around for a while.
That was a great race, though.
It was a
because
great
you were
race.
out on him and like.
Well, I know I was wounded, so we had a blown head gasket at that pass. It was like we had just started. That was like that car initiated like the new power levels that we became, because that's when we got the bigger turbos on it and a better turbo kit. Everything we learned from the old turbo kit, and you know, it had a standard MLS head gasket on it, and we were approaching 2,500 horsepower. And the run before that was round 2 FL2K. I think we went like a 670 or something, which was a personal best. And it started making a little coolant pressure. Like typically it's always like 15 or whatever the number is. And then it was like 30. We saw it and we're like, well, that's that. It's blown up.
Can't just pop a head gasket on a Coyote.
Not between rounds of racing at FL2K. Well, maybe at FL2K. Sometimes the rounds may be far off if it rains or something. But
They did it on Travis's car at FL2K, but it's an LS. You can get away with that.
yeah, right. Yeah, me, no. Like the engine's coming out, essentially.
Yeah.
And so that's when we made a decision before that round. I knew with Joe Garrett. I was like, we'll just put the safety at 35. And I know it's not going to torture. It's the thing with coolant pressure, the head gasket, is just like it's dangerous because you're going to explode something in your cooling system, radiator, and then crash the car. Like I'm never afraid. Like the engine dies. But if we crash the car in the meantime or catching on fire, then I don't want to die. The engine could die, but I don't
personally have done that. I personally kicked a head gasket and
it happens.
Charged my coolant and
it happens a lot, man. It's a pop-it valve, ECU safety.
Yeah.
And watch your data logs.
I've actually done both. I've been on fire as well too. You were there for that one.
Yeah, I was there for that one.
In the other lane, actually.
Yeah. So we were like, all right, we can't turn it up because I was already hurt. I was like, just run the same pass. I'll try to do a good job on the light. Maybe he'll spin or whatever, and we'll win. And I think we even put a little hose from the radiator cap up to my windshield, so I had a visual gauge too. Jay was doing it. I'm like, Jay, I'm not going to lift if I'm out on him. I don't care if water's spraying on the windshield.
You just won't see.
On the windshield or not. Like, that's given up at 18 pounds. I was like, the ECU shut it off at 35 pounds, and that's where I feel like the radiator is going to explode.
I mean, it's way better to trust the ECU, it seems like, than trust a visual in front of your face.
That's the old school coolant pressure gauge.
I know.
That's been around a long time.
You don't need that when you have your fancy ECU stuff that can do things for you.
We put it on there, made them feel better about it.
Yeah, it helps. It's nice. What rules did they change that changed your World Cup class?
They removed the TX2K crossover.
Okay.
So that was... and Jason's thought behind, I think this was just to keep the classes closer because, like, on paper, the TX2K crossover is pretty wide open.
Well, everything but for V10s, right?
Oh, right. Yeah. So they made it so the Vipers could still run in that class.
Yeah.
So they removed everything but the V10s.
Makes sense.
And that's what, so now Garrett is back in Warriors with El Camino, with Mullet.
Because he crosses over from a different rule book?
His whole race Warriors rules. So the cast big block will go back in, and he'll have to run 88 millimeter turbos, and with the lockup, I think it's 3450 is his weight, which is the natural weight of that car, I believe.
Interesting. That would be interesting.
And he already runs no intercooler. So like he was bumped to Renegade last year with the car, and I was in Warriors. And then now he's back in Warriors, and I got bumped to Renegade with the small block.
Is there no way for you to change your car to get back?
Well, so that was, it's my decision, right? Like, talked to Job about it, obviously, a lot. And it's like, I don't want to change. One thing, I don't want to run without an intercooler just because we haven't. And, like, I want to keep the engine as happy as I can.
Yeah.
Like, it's an air-to-air, but it's still cooling. It's still knocking a couple hundred degrees off the inlet air temp. I don't want to add 200 pounds to the car. The option behind adding weight would be taking the lockup out, which then would require a different transmission, which I don't own, a different converter, and then get the converter set up to try to run the speeds that I'm running now without the lockup, which we could, but all of this takes time and a lot of passes.
Yeah, to run slower.
To run slower
than you are now. So you'd be
the same speed as I am now, because that class is fast. I was 5th qualifier last year with a 6:45 in that class.
Wow. Yeah.
Like,
I won it was that fast.
Keith went 6:19 in that class last year.
Oh yeah.
So
I forgot he went
it's
on
still a
19.
fast class. And if you watch
Yeah.
Warriors, like 2
But
weeks.
he gets screwed too now.
So he gets.
So
So
he'll
his
get
car is
slowed
a
down.
natural Warriors car. So
Oh,
when he
okay.
races out of Warriors now, he has the lockup trans for it now, and I think his weight changes a little bit around there.
Okay.
But he's used to running Warriors weight, which is you can run a 315 on Warriors. He was on a 315 last year up there, so you get a little tire advantage.
Makes sense.
And he has that car. He has a non-lockup trans and converter set up because he races Warriors with the car. So for him, he's just running his little bit of a slower combo.
Yeah.
Or like that.
So you'd rather just try to swing
well, yeah,
bigger.
So,
yeah, I mean.
So now it's like, you know what? Like, I'm not trying to go slower. Yes, winning a race is cool and getting paid to win a race, at
nice
the end.
big, heavy.
Yeah, it's $10,000
bowl.
class. Like, that's a good one in the award and it's World Cup, But, like, the whole, like, I'm trying to go faster. Like, I've been working on the car this summer. Like, the goal is to go faster than we did last year.
I'll be honest, I did not at any point think you weren't working on the car.
Yeah, so someone texted me the other day, like, I haven't seen you post in a while. What are you up to? And I'm like, oh, we went out on the boat, hanging out.
Yeah. At no point was I like, man, he's probably taking a break from wrenching on the car.
He's just been working on Doug's car a lot. He hasn't really been doing anything.
Yeah, he's probably parked, just sitting there's a roller or something.
Yeah, he's going to give it up.
Yeah, you take some time off of it, yeah.
So you looked at that class, and last year's results, qualifying sheet from first place to 8th place. First place was a 680 something, which is untouchable for me at this point.
580.
580, I'm sorry.
580, yeah.
585 or 580.
So the class you're stepping into was 580.
580, number 8 qualifier, was my like current fastest pass, was like 627. So from 8th to, first was from 620 to 580. Throughout the rounds, the finals, the fastest pass was a 697. The rest of the passes were in the low 6s. I'm trying to go
low 5s. No,
low 6s.
Okay.
Low 6s.
Yeah.
I'm trying to go low 6s. Like,
Yeah.
we went 626. We've been faster to the 8th and haven't ran it out. So, like, I knew, the car as it sits can go like an 18 or so. Add the World Cup into the mix. Last year, it was faster than 640s before up there, but the track, like I said, is really tricky. We were having a hard time getting it to 60 foot. But I'm working on suspension stuff with the car now to make it 60 foot faster than it was before anyway. And in that class, I would be able to run a 315 tire. Last year, I opted out of running a 315 tire because Jim was making fun of me really
Jim
bad.
won't help you.
Jim won't help me. And the whole time we were up there and we were spinning through qualifying, the only thing I was saying was, we're the only car in the class with a 275 just because we're trying to be cool. Winning is cool.
Yeah. It's a lot cooler to have a tire that's more...
And then now in Renegade, like,
down.
they're pro mod body, full chassis import cars.
Well, there's cars that aren't just radial tires in that class, right?
Right, the import side. So there's slick tire cars on the domestic side, but I think they're 10.5 cars.
Yeah.
And then there's LDR cars on the crossover. Mm-hmm. But they get to take 100 pounds out or so. And then the import side are all big tire, pro mod, full chassis cars.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that were going 5s.
Yeah.
And then LDR cars, like, those guys are just cruising 380s every weekend.
I wonder if he did anything to, probably not, but to slow down some of the imports or I guess to speed up some of the domestics, because last year an import won. So you kind of, if anybody wins anything, they get a trophy that's either lead or
it's gold
something
and then
taken away.
Right. I don't know. Like,
I didn't look at I didn't look at rule parity from last year. The rules are not easy to read unless you're like in the class. Like if you're just like a casual viewer and you're like, oh, let me, dive in to try to understand these renegade rules.
Yes. Yeah. Like, I don't know. Like, all I paid attention to was like, okay, we fit. And I looked at last year's class and hopefully they don't get any faster because we're totally screwed. But going into it, how we sit, like I'm a racer. Like, I want to race. I want to race up. I want to improve my car, myself, our abilities. So I'm not just going to only enter a race that I'm pretty sure we can win. Like this one, at the end of the day, if we can go a 618, which I think the car can run out as is now, we're sitting like 3rd or 4th place. Like, it's raceable still.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, even like thinking about Mullet, I wonder if Garrett will even bring it because he's got a new car being built.
Oh, he's going to be Warriors.
He's going to have like 12 cars just because.
Mullet will be in Warriors. I don't see him not doing that.
Yeah.
Like, because I mean, only change. I mean, there's already plans on putting the cast big block back in, and he's already talked about that. So the only change they'll have to make is the turbos.
Yeah.
Put 88s on it instead of the 94s.
And then you might as well.
And then at that point, it just fits the class. It has been mid sixes on that, pretty close to that setup.
Yeah, it should be.
Which that class is a mid 6-second class.
It's going to have to. It's still going to have to struggle. It's still going to be a tough uphill battle for that combo.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Mullet is.
With the 88s.
Right. They haven't raced on those turbos before, so they can't. They'll have to race the car a little different. They won't just be able to back half it as hard as they could with the bigger turbos, because the engine won't like that as much now, the smaller turbos. Or maybe it won't make as much total horsepower to be able to pick up AT back there. But he'll be allowed to be on his 315, which the car works better on the 315. Like, it'll be a good fit for it. Really will be.
Yeah, that'll probably fit better. I mean, obviously, I have no idea about the new car, where it'll fit, how fast
Unlimited.
it'll be. I mean, it
would just be, it would be an unlimited.
You think it's that spicy where it won't fit in anything?
Oh, no, it won't fit in Renegade. Because, like, Renegade is LDR crossover, and his new car is Pro 275 chassis, technically.
That's tough.
So that, but, I mean, no, I don't think so. I think that car would win. Like, those guys, what, they go, like, 560s all weekend in Unlimited? That's what that new car will run.
Yeah, I mean, it should be in the 60s for sure.
Yeah, like, that's...
God, that's... You see, like, running that car out the back sounds, like, wild to me.
That's
a lot.
It's really fast. It's going to be going 250 plus. A lot of things can go wrong really quick. The engine is making extreme amount of horsepower. So, like, when things go wrong, it's going to go wrong in a much spectacular fashion and a dangerous fashion.
And it's in the throttle for so much longer than eighth mile. Like,
right.
Significantly more time making that power.
Most of the domestics in that class, like you see the No Prep King guys and stuff, like they're all clipped off before the quarter, like well before. They're going 580s, but they're off by the 1,000 or so.
Well, like I think Lutz, you know, he lost his chutes one time, like trying to run it out the back, like they just ripped off the back of the car.
Yeah, I don't think Garrett had those problems. This car's being built to do what it's going to do.
It shouldn't, but just running a car that fast out
250 miles an hour is still 250 miles an hour or whatever. Yeah. And you have a car next to you that hopefully everything is going good.
Like you were, I mean, you're close with Mark Mickey, so watching them run that car out the back, the Pro Mod, I was like, holy shit.
And those were clipped off at like the 1,000. Yeah. Those cars are going to go 300 miles an hour.
Holy shit.
I think they're limited on the tire right now, on the speed rating of the tire they run.
I was thinking that on the 275s also. Technically, even the front runners that most people run are limited at the speeds. We're already exceeding, for the most part, we as in drag racers are already exceeding what Mickey Thompson says these tires are good for.
Right. The only thing we have going for us is the amount of time at speed.
Yeah.
It's like it's milliseconds compared to like a sustained speed. Like at whatever the brake, like if the brake point's 220, like you went through the traps at 220, but you're only going that fast for that long. Or
yeah, I wonder. You've talked to the tire companies a little bit. I wonder if they're sweating a little bit. People just like, hey, can you guys just tone it down a little?
Well, I'm pretty sure that's what happened to like Mark and Todd, the guys that were running those quarter mile records with the Pro Mods, where Hoosier was like, hey, like I don't think it's gonna.
Yeah, like we don't support this.
We need to build tires for you guys to do this.
Or they don't do it. One or the other.
Right.
Either like you don't do it, which, it's cool to see happen, or you just say, hey, we need different tires for it.
And talking to some of those guys, like those cars take a beating up there, and I'm sure a lot of it is the tire is probably not very smooth. Like the car's chassis breaking and windshield's like trying to fall out. Like it's.
I wonder if Devin will fit in your class. Vanderhoof?
For World Cup?
Yeah.
It should, because it's the TX2K crossover.
Okay.
And that's a street car, drive to the lanes, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, like mine and his car are really closely matched in all of that. Like it's a drag and drive car.
I know. I always like seeing those two cars in the same class.
Yeah. Well, we haven't got to race each other a lot. Like Sick Week, he hurt the engine. And then, in South Carolina, street car bragging rights, I mean, he beat me in that 8th mile class we were at. Like, that car is fast. It runs good.
What is it with these big blocks, and when they get near you, they start to have problems? It seems like a common theme.
They don't want to get beat by a 300
because,
Coyote.
Across the board, I mean, the whole thing with Sick Week was you versus Lutz.
Yeah.
And Lutz just could not keep that motor together.
Right.
And every time it's you versus Garrett, it always seems to be the big blocks that end up as the underdog somehow.
Right. Yeah. Like, and I felt like that a few times, like with the World Cup rules, and it's like at the end of the day, I'm like, hey, like this car, like it's a fast car, but like it's a 302 cubic inch cast block, cast head
Yeah.
car with 83 millimeter turbos on it. Like it's not a Pro 275 car, or it's not an aftermarket cast big block with 88s.
Yeah, it's from Ford. I mean, God, if people want to hear the freaking stock block debate,
right?
oh,
Exactly.
God,
Like
it's a OEM block. It's a
or even
from Ford factory block.
Right, or even
yes, it has sleeves.
Or even if it was billet, like it's a little engine compared to the big blocks, like a couple hundred cubic inches smaller. Most of those are 540 or so.
Yeah, and for the longest time it was stock crank until like
Yeah, which
FLGK.
is just like crazy. Like when you think back about that, like it still could be. Like if we never broke it, it would just need to be serviced more.
Yeah.
Like it's like it was making 2,800.
Do you like so? Are you worried about the information that you've helped gather, like get to other people? Because like you and Joe have helped. You've helped Joe, but Joe makes a business off of it, so he then in turn sells all of the R&D that you guys do together.
Yep.
But I guess he's paying you in a way for that R&D. So it's an interesting thing. You almost have to like gatekeep your information, but also because it's being like used. And I know Job is pretty secretive about some of the stuff that you guys do.
Right. Well, yeah, there's a line between staying competitive and just giving out all the answers. Like I know, it's kind of the norm now where people feel entitled to everyone should share everything about an engine program or their car because it's kind of how the internet is. And I like sharing most of the stuff. Like I've been pretty open with, most of my car and stuff just because it's just why I like the sport and why I like racing. It's the community. Like I want to see everyone and succeed and go fast. And me and Joe's relationship, like, we're friends and he's builds the engines for me and he can grow his business. Like if we're in a relationship and I'm your friend, like I want to see you succeed more than myself. Like, or we can come up together in it. You get to, your business will grow and what I want to do grows. Like it's not about money to me at that point.
Absolutely. But I worry like, giving out too much information to people that are going to end up in the lane next to you at some point.
Yeah, well, I mean,
at some point it starts to get like a fine line of like, you just, handed the guy the rope to hang you with.
Sure. Well, I mean, look at all the Coyote cars coming out now, or all the cars. Like everyone's on twins now. Everyone's got a lockup now. Mostly the same turbos, same oil pump. Like, and why wouldn't you if I like follow the recipe? Like,
yeah, I mean, you'd be silly to be like, well, I don't want to copy him, so I'm going to do something unique.
Right. Like,
but then at the same time, like. The stuff that you do with your transmission is probably the most unique kind of secret, I would think, with your car, where even if people listen to it and they understand what's going on, to replicate it is a whole different world.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're probably going to break a couple cranks trying to replicate it or spin the motor backwards.
Yeah, a lot of things can go wrong. And the thing is, like, it's new to a lot of people, or it sounds new, but it isn't new. It's new to what we're doing, but people have done it in a lot of different racing applications before.
Yeah.
Like it's just like you're not like I think me and Doug were talking about that today, like YouTube stuff. Like you don't see like LDR guys, X275 guys, like these guys don't have YouTube channels showing the race program or what they're doing. Like, those guys are in tight competition. More than likely, the owner of the car doesn't need them make a living off of YouTube, so he really has no business making videos unless he just wanted to.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing really in it for him at that point.
Absolutely.
So, they're already doing more things than what, maybe I'm doing with my car, and those cars get them as fast as they are. It's
so like you talk to somebody like Stevie Fast, of course, who obviously is now pretty well a part of like your program, I would say. Not your program, but like your circle a lot more now.
Sure, yeah.
Because his motion connection.
Right.
And he's that like 3 levels up, I would say. So you could probably gain some stuff there, what he's already doing.
Yeah, like it's just, and that's kind of what I've always done with my car. Like it's, to get faster, you need to look at cars that are faster. Like you get inspiration. Like you go to the races. Like I remember the first time like going to Snowbirds and like seeing those cars. Like I just walk the pits and like look at how they do their headers or where their sensors are located. And, it's just like downloading all of that. Like more than likely there's a reason for all of it. Like you go to you look at all of the really fast cars and you can see a lot of things, or you watch the team work on the car and then just apply it to your smaller version of that. And then, it's going to lead you down to that road.
Well, that's kind of one thing that I've always noticed on like you and Jim's cars. Like nothing is in a location by accident or by like, oh,
there was nowhere else to put it.
Yeah, like everything's like in a location for a reason. And most like my car, like things aren't in locations for like specific reasons. It's more like this is where it fit when it needed to be put in.
Yeah.
And you have to think of a car in like layers that it's really hard to try to think like in like 4D.
Well, and we're all building cars backwards. Like a race car starts out as a table and then tubes and then stuff is put where it needs to be and then other things are building around it, where we're taking like a factory car and reversing it into a race car.
Yeah, and there's not space in the same locations in every car.
Right.
Like my car has space that is so different than where you have room. But building a car, I always try to think of layers. Like, like there's the cooling system layer, there's the engine layer, there's the harness. And then like if you don't think about them all before you start, you're going to really end up in a pickle when you have to put an oil line and there's nowhere to put it.
Well, and that's why it's true. And that's how, like, Jim and I are, like, you reference our cars because, like, we work so well together because I have the electrical, the mechanical, years of knowledge and stuff. And so, and Jim is just, top tier fabricator. So it's just like, okay, we need to do this like this because this is going to be in there, to think far ahead. So, like, we know every aspect of the car where, if you run into trouble where it's like, okay, I got this chassis, I put the motor in, now you bring it to a fab guy, he builds a turbo kit, now you bring it to a wiring guy, and he has to work around the turbo kit. Where if you're doing it all together in the same thing, you can plan for it.
Yeah, but that's even where it's tough. Even if you're doing it all yourself, to be able to actually have the forethought of like,
well, yeah, that's true.
There's gonna be oil lines there or something like that. Because I mean, you probably know now more dry sump stuff than most.
Yeah.
Dry sump takes up a big amount of space.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of packaging.
They're large oil lines. They can't just go, they can't be an afterthought.
No, they can't be. Just because, like, the fitting, like, you put the dry sump tank in the car, and then now you realize you're fitting the exit of the tank is in the front, Well, probably anything faster than, like, a 118 60-foot, you're going to lose oil pressure.
Yeah.
Because it needs to be in the back.
And most people aren't even going to think of that.
Or at least towards the back, or the use of 90s, or any bend past a 90. Like, that doesn't even exist in my vocabulary, a bend and a fitting past the 90. Like, it's just like, that won't be on the car. Like, remake something for flow reasons.
Or bend and a fitting.
Like, like 120 degree or 180 degree bend.
Because the flow really gets hurt that badly that it's just not worth.
If it's in like a dry sump system or a fuel system, like, I'm not trying to use a 90 if I like absolutely can't.
Makes
Return
sense.
side, not so much, but feed side for sure.
Makes sense. And then, we've talked a little bit about your car when you got it versus when you rewired it. I remember you talking about the wiring weight difference. I found very interesting too, because the amount of weight that you can take off from wiring the same two cars wired differently can be vastly different weight.
Absolutely. And even just taking like my old car, how it was. So it had a Motec on it. It had all of the stock fuse boxes. Like normally you have a stock car, you can put an aftermarket ECU on it. Unless you have a plug and play kit on a later model, you're going to separate the engine, computer, and power supplies from the rest of the car. So I had built a fuse box in that car, and it had like the relays for everything engine related, for coils, ECU, injectors, and all that kind of stuff. And then the stock fuse boxes did everything else. Like the front one worked the headlights, but like the engine stuff that used to be in there wasn't in there. So now you have a big fuse box that's only doing half the job. Then you have body modules and all that stuff running everything.
Yeah.
And a lot of extra wiring for ABS and airbags and things that don't exist anymore in the car, but the wiring's still there because it's in the stock harness. I think when I didn't get it because it turned out we had to, the timeline got tight at the end. I didn't get to do an actual weight difference, but I would bet any amount of money it was at least 40 pounds lighter after I wired that car from the stock harness with the like attachment of the aftermarket ECU.
Oh, wow.
Because like that S197 had at that point 3 large fuse boxes and a couple body modules, to where when it was done it had an M150 and a PDM.
Yeah,
which weighs as much as the phone.
Me and Jim were talking a little bit about him switching his car to PDM.
Yeah,
and
we're gonna do that this winter on his. It'll be at least on his car. We've cut a lot of that stock harness out of his car, but all the fuse boxes are there. It'll be at least 30 pounds lighter, and a better wiring harness because it's going to be better wire, routed, shorter runs of wire, all the things that come along with building a motorsports style harness.
And that's even an interesting one too, because the wiring, like mil-spec wiring, is so thin and light compared to just like the wiring most people would use in their car.
Yeah,
it's almost like it screws up your brain a little bit when you're like, wait, what the heck?
Yeah, like this is the whole harness. Like, I'm doing a tech tip right now about crimping and some basic wiring stuff, and because the wiring connection of the wiring is as or more important as the ECU or the sensor, because it's what's connecting two together, right? So doing some basic connection tips and tools to be used and stuff like that. And I happened to, because I had never actually measured them back to back, but I had a standard wire and it was 22 gauge. And then I had a TEF-cell wire, was 20 gauge, which the TEF-cell wire is tin-plated copper instead of straight copper. So it can be the lower or the higher gauges, the smaller wire can carry more current because it's a better conductor.
Yeah.
So the outer of the regular wire, I think, was 70 thousandths of the 22 gauge, the smaller wire, and the larger 20 gauge wire in the TEF-cell was like 48 thousandths.
And it's worse, and it was bigger.
It was big. It was bigger.
Yeah, and it's still worse.
It would have carried twice the current of the 22 gauge.
Yeah. Huh.
And the sheathing is stronger, is less abrasive resistance, and the tin-plated copper is less corrosive, so it's going to last a long time. You'll never you ever like pull a wire out of a taillight or something, it's like black, the copper is like black.
Usually most of my wiring actually looks just like that.
Yeah, that's the corrosion just from the atmosphere.
Yeah, much of my wiring is actually currently falling apart.
Well, and that just comes in from where you strip the wire back. Like, just exposed to the atmosphere of the humidity of Florida, or you washed a car once. Like,
well, even you guys were switching a lot of motion connectors on the right side to Deutsch connectors, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that changes it so much too, and it makes it so much smaller because those giant connectors are horrible. Like the regular style, what would you call the old style? Like
it's
a weather pack.
Yeah, it's a metric pack, or Delphi is the terminology. There's a few terms for them, but the Deutsch connector, the sealing properties of the connector are a lot higher, and then the serviceability of the connector exists. There's like no serviceability of a lot of those weather packs. Like it's gonna break, or the way the seals are made, they're falling out. Like they don't work well. And then a lot of them are larger.
So your history was with Mercedes.
Yeah.
And I was told that you were really high up in Mercedes on like the tech side of things, but I never really got the story from you.
Yeah.
Like I was somebody told me that you were like one of the only certified techs like around to do like certain things, because you have to get like levels. I don't know how dealerships really operate, I guess.
Yeah, there's so that was through Mercedes-Benz. They're one of the best things about Mercedes-Benz is the training available to the technicians, online training, and then they have a training center in Jacksonville. There's regional. There's 3 depending on in the country where you go get your certifications for like if a new car comes about, they'll make a class for it, and you go up there for a few days and give you ins and outs, or an engine, or if it's a hybrid, or whatever the system may be. And I was. I'm intrigued by knowledge. I like learning, and then cars, obviously, I'm into that.
Yeah,
so
German engineering is pretty good.
And then as a technician, like you have to diagnose and then repair the car, and a technician's flat rate. So you get paid basically on how quickly or how well you can diagnose a car and fix it. And then if it comes back, you don't get paid to fix it because you didn't diagnose it correctly. And and you have all this training available to you. So it made sense to me to learn how to do my job better.
Yeah.
And you got paid to go to training.
And you were quicker at doing it, so you could make more money.
Yeah, and you're learning more. And the technology with Mercedes, like, is above or ahead of any other car manufacturer.
There's bugs in here. It's a kind
Couple
it's kind of a frustrating thing.
Yeah.
At Florida, there's bugs in buildings, so yeah, it's just kind of part of it, guys. So they had a couple get them.
So the technology was always intriguing to me because, like, and it's funny, like any of the self-driving systems or a lot of things you see on cars now, like in commercials and stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, like we did that 10 years ago.
Mercedes.
In a car. Yeah, they just don't really advertise it, or it's not on like all of the models. So you look at like a current like loaded S-Class, it's probably like 10 years ahead of, other models. Maybe some of the other higher end companies.
Well, the people just buy
them
them regardless. Like this is
they don't even know. Like just the other day, Tia, she showed me like an ad. It was a funny Mercedes commercial, and I remembered it from training a long time ago. And the commercial never aired in U.S. It was just in Germany, and it was like just white gloves, and they had a chicken, and there was 3 of them. And there was like music playing, and they were moving the chicken bodies, and the chicken head just stays still, because that's what chicken do. Like their head stays still, and they're
pretty what are they?
Like a gyroscope kind of thing. Well, what the commercial was for was Magic Body Control was the name of the system, and a certain option on the S-Class, if you had the hydraulic suspension, was it used the forward-facing cameras to scan the road surface and adjust the shock at each corner for the imperfections in the road surface. Wow. So the chicken's head was you in the car.
Yeah.
And like we would like turn like no way this works, right? And like hit a speed bump with only like the right side of the car and drive over it like 5 miles an hour, and then like turn the system on and drive over it, and like you didn't feel the speed bump.
Huh. See, yeah.
And like
I guess I don't understand. I guess I don't know much about Mercedes because they don't
advertise.
They just don't brag about.
There's no
their things.
They don't. There's no commercials for it.
Yeah, like BMW and like Audi would be like pushing that kind of stuff all over.
Yeah, like the infrared cameras in the S-Classes for night driving.
Yeah, I've
put
seen
up
that
on a
before.
screen, and like just so many. There was just the pre-safe, like I think after 22. If the car detected an accident was going to happen and the airbags were going to deploy, the sound system emits a noise that closes your eardrum so you don't get injured from the airbag explosion.
Wow. That's weird. It's a creepy. That's like such a weird feature, but I mean, it's great. It's a great idea. Of course, who wouldn't want that?
Why would we have the ability to do that? Like clever programming. Like we know the sound wave that closes the eardrum. The airbags are going to be dynamite exploding in the car.
Yeah,
let's protect our passengers' eardrum.
So you were just getting more certifications because they kept offering them to you?
Oh, well, yeah, basically, I guess I got off on that.
No, I mean, it was
like I've been out of it. Like there's so many interesting systems in those cars, and now I'm behind now. Like I've been out of the dealership since what year was that? 3 years ago?
Yeah, Real Street took you out of it.
21. Yeah. Jay talked me into leaving.
Yeah, Jay convinced you to get out of it into performance cars.
Right. Which I always loved performance, and I was working on cars every night. Like I'd work on cars all day, and I would go home and work on cars. So
yeah,
you
were building trans for a long time.
Building trans, doing side jobs, working on my own cars, like friends' cars, and I just I did very well for myself as a technician, and I enjoyed it. It was very stable. And I knew I didn't want to open my own shop because I wouldn't be able to enjoy it. Because I, would need a business person, all the things that go along with owning a shop.
Most shop owners don't actually enjoy racing.
Right, exactly. And I saw that, and I enjoyed racing, and it's like, well, I'm making as much money as I want to make working in the dealership, so I might as well stay working in the dealership.
Yeah.
But there's also an end to that because as a flat rate technician, age will eventually catch you because in the dealership you see the people that are 50, 60, that are still working as a technician, and you're not really enjoying life at that point. And the really only position to go from there is to like a shop foreman role, which is possible, which I would have been in that position, no problem. I was a team leader and could have did that easy. But at that point, you're not flat rate anymore, you're salary, and you'll make less money than the technicians are making. So it's kind of like going the wrong way financially. But
the interesting thing about like a Mercedes or something is I feel like a tech like Mercedes is really sought after, even from like one of those like higher end performance shops, or even like you see it all the time in like Ferrari and like those kind of guys where they specialize in like a certain car and like all of them in the country, like
Sure.
an SLS or something.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I work on all of them in the country because like nobody else knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I feel like that kind of happens in like a performance, in like a, it's not like a Chevy where it's like, oh, I do like.
Yeah, you have an easier way to get
Silverados.
into a performance shop if you wanted to work on cars.
Or even like
whatnot.
specifically Mercedes, because like there's so many like high end shops that
Sure.
work on that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
it's such a different like dealership feel almost, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I never even like explored that. Like, it just
Yeah, I
felt
mean, I
like
guess
it
there
was-
wouldn't really need to be.
Like I was doing good there. I had all the factory tools and training. Like, I mean, the systems, like if you want to know the torque of the zip tie holding the harness on, like you could find that information.
You still have the tools?
Well, I still have like the hand tools, like any of like the factory tools, the dealership had.
Oh,
So
okay.
like the specialty tools, there was a tool room, like if it required, if you did a job a lot, you would end up buying it for yourself, so you didn't have to walk to the tool room. So yeah, I have probably like 3 giant boxes full of tools that like I had specifically. My toolbox was pretty limited. It was the tools I needed to do the job. Like the wrench set wasn't even complete. I had more tools at home than I had at the dealership. Like
Yeah.
it would only be the sizes that I needed to work on those cars because that was what I did, there.
Yeah,
And
there's
then,
only
like,
select cars. There's only select sizes that you really need.
yeah,
on a
like
Mercedes.
you're working on a Honda, you just need a 10 and a 12, maybe a 17. You're good. You can take the whole car apart. So
Yeah.
Mercedes are a lot of inverted torques and things like that. So it was the same way. Like like people would be mad at me because I would never buy a set. I would just be like, no, I'm just gonna buy this one.
Yeah, all the Snap-on guys.
So-
What do you mean you don't need every size?
Yeah, right.
Come
like,
on.
Yeah, I don't need a 20 millimeter socket. That does not exist. Like, don't sell me this socket.
You gotta buy them though. I
Right.
used to work around a lot of people that would like buy any tool, like any specialty thing, because like the Snap-on guy, shiny stuff.
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely real life. But I have a lot of tools. I still definitely do.
Yeah, I'm pretty limited on tools. I feel like I have just what I need, and I try to avoid having
Right.
more than necessary. Because I'd rather have cheap tools that I can like cut or like bend if I have to.
Sure.
I've done a lot of that where
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, you probably have
Custom
a few
tools.
custom tools
Oh, yeah,
for your
definitely,
car
yeah.
that's like, oh, if I don't have this 15 that's only this big
Right.
or something,
Yeah.
for some reason, if you got T4 turbos, they're not easy to get on.
Exactly.
They designed them, but for some reason they didn't think about the nut.
Yeah.
I feel like. I love you, Precision, but like,
There's definitely a few where it's like you have to start the nut as you lower it down or something, like the housing down, like because the stud would hit it and there's no way you would ever get a bolt in it. So
you
have
knew
to
it was
use
going to
that.
be there. Like they knew when they designed it, it was going to be there. So I don't know how that happened.
Definitely didn't care.
It's just like, you'll figure it out.
Yeah, you'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out.
But anyway, yeah, we'll get back on the subject. So I started with Mercedes in 2009. I was working on cars already. I started working on cars when I was 16 in high school. I started in a shop. I was working full time, like alongside of high school, like OJT, leave, go to work. And then
okay.
Racing my Mustang, and then I remember like graduation happened, and everyone's talking about like going to college and stuff, and I'm racing my Mustang, working 50 hours a week at the shop, buying car parts.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I guess I'm gonna work on cars. This is
Probably
cool.
felt super rich.
I was like making $30,000 a year or something, like
Yeah.
working full time as a mechanic. It was doing okay.
Yeah,
Like,
in
I
high
was-
school, that's like...
Yeah, like I had like moved out when I was like basically like end of high school. Like moved out, got an apartment. Mm-hmm. I think it was like my 18th birthday when I could sign the lease.
Still in the Tampa area?
No, I was in Fort Pierce,
Oh, okay.
Florida, Port St. Lucie,
Okay.
and did that. Worked in that shop for a few years. Met a guy, Frank Aquero, who used to come in. It was a Meineke, an exhaust shop, but did other general mechanic work too. Mm-hmm. And he'd bring in hot rods that he was building, get exhaust made. So I started like hanging out with him. Go over. He had a shop behind his house, and I would go over there after work. I would go over there and work with him at night because he always worked at night because it was cooler out. And that's where like I learned a lot about race car stuff. He had like a blown alcohol Chevelle that like I was the clutch guy. And he had a dragster and he had a bunch of cool cars and he built engines like
Interesting.
in his garage, and I would like just work with him at night.
Yeah.
Like, learning from him, go to races with him on the weekend.
So you did learn the clutch stuff early on.
I did like the slipper clutch is that everyone, is the same thing. It was
Yeah. It's not a new concept.
no, it was a big block with a 1471 blower
Yep.
on alcohol with a 5-speed Lenko and a
That's
triple
funny.
disc slipper clutch, and Yeah.
Yeah, it's really not a new concept on that deal. They've been around for quite some time. They're just new on the T56.
They're new on the T56. They
Yeah.
are in the lever style. They do work differently than those, but
Yeah.
same concept. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was like, I got my. That's why I don't stick shift race. I was like 18, and I was like, no, that's enough of that. We don't need it.
You were done right there.
I'm like, this is hot. Like, this is the worst. That's why I got that job. It was the worst job
Yeah.
of the car for sure.
You're
Every
actually
pass.
you've done more to take stick shift cars out of existence than you have to help the stick shift.
Took the fastest one in the country at the time. I was like, oh, we're gonna go ahead.
Yeah, you've done negative help for the community.
Oh, no.
I don't know if the stick shift guys have realized that.
Yeah, I don't think I even realized that.
Yeah.
I don't have hatred towards stick shifts. It's just a lot of work, and I don't want to do that anymore.
No, that's fair. I mean, unless it, yeah, I wouldn't. I don't blame you at all.
So I was working for him, and then I ended up going to work for him full time, and that was fun. We just did race car stuff, but I wasn't making a lot of money, and that's when I talked to my uncle. Actually, my uncle had a transmission shop in Pompano, and I would go to work for him in the summers, like before I was 16, at his shop. And he's like, if you want to work on cars, you got to go to Mercedes. It's like you'll make the most money as a mechanic than like all this other stuff. And he owned his own shop,
Yeah.
like a trans shop.
And he was like, go work for Mercedes.
he's like, go work for Mercedes.
Huh.
So I listened to him.
Yeah.
And there was a Mercedes store like 2 doors down from the Meineke shop that I used to work at. And my friend PJ in high school was still my good friend, or is, and his girlfriend, wife now, dad, if this all makes sense, was the shop foreman there. Mm-hmm. So I felt like I had a little connection. And like I was an independent shop, PJ worked at a Chevy dealership, and like I was like intimidated by dealership techs, or it seemed very formal or structured compared to like independent shops,
Yeah, just like the random.
And I was like, I don't know, like I had never even sat in a Mercedes at this point in my life, but I was a good technician. I've worked on cars for a long time. I felt like I was pretty good. And I went in there and interviewed, and they're like, yeah, we'll hire you. So I was like, cool.
Yeah, I feel like even now, most of these dealerships are begging for techs.
Yeah, so the interview process now is pretty easy. They hand you a mirror, and they're like, if you can fog this with your breath,
You're qualified.
qualified.
You now work on these.
Oh, you don't have tools?
cars.
You can borrow so-and-so's tools to get going.
Don't worry. There's going to be a guy that'll come around.
Yeah, don't worry. This tech right here is going to train you, and we're not going to pay him to train you, but we're going to make him train you.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, until you're good enough. But
Just give him a Red Bull every day. he'll be happy.
there's a pizza party on Friday. We're
Yeah.
going to buy you guys lunch.
It's even funny you call them Mercedes stores. I feel like that's a unique thing to Mercedes, that they call their dealership stores. Where like it's like, oh, you go to the Chevy dealer, but you go to the Mercedes store. Like there's like it's like a level of Mercedes prestige.
It's just built into me. I've drank the Kool-Aid a lot. So,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm sure they have to, really drag you in there, keep you away from other dealers.
Yeah, they started this brand immersion thing 10 years ago or so, and everyone in the dealership, you don't have to go to it, but you have to go to it.
Yeah.
And you go to Alabama, and you go to the road course up there, and then they have a manufacturing plant in Alabama, Mercedes does, and you tour the plant, and you go, and you get to like ride off-road in a car, and it's brand immersion, but it's like the Kool-Aid big time, like they put you up in a nice hotel. And
hadn't it changed hands a couple times, or they bought Daimler at a point,
and that's when
there.
Yeah, and that's when Dodge, like all the Dodge techs and everything, hated that, because Mercedes I'm gonna say that backwards. They bought Daimler, realized that it wasn't a good financial decision, and sold Daimler.
Yeah.
But I don't even know how long it was. I think it was actually before I started working for Mercedes, so it was pre-09.
There was, because they had like some random junk, like Mercedes badge.
The Crossfire, there was an SLK with a Dodge body. It was the Dodge. You couldn't even get it worked on at Dodge. Like it was totally a Mercedes under the skin. Mm-hmm. Like the electronics, like you needed the Mercedes scan tool.
And it was like
Chrysler Crossfire.
And it was a bad crossover too, because it was like the worst of both products.
It was a bad Mercedes that year. SLK, like it's a hydraulic like top, and they went bad, and the engine just wasn't very impressive. And it was a V6, and there was an AMG version of that engine which had like a Roots supercharger on it, and that was also available in the Crossfire.
Yeah, I remember seeing the AMG engines and the Crossfire stuff.
Yeah, which And it was whatever, it was 2002.
Car shit, yeah.
Yeah.
Cars get weird sometimes.
But when that happened, like apparently working for Mercedes used to be way better as a tech than it was before they bought Daimler because they paid too much. They didn't do a lot of time studies on how long jobs took, and jobs paid way more than they should have to the technician.
Oh, interesting. So they were overpaying technicians at Mercedes.
Like when I started, like I remember there was some techs getting out of it, like the older timer techs that have been working for 20 years or so. Then there's like an evaporator job used to pay like 32 hours, and now it pays like 6.
Oh, so they were really just being completely liberal with it, just like, oh yeah,
right, yeah. These techs were making $200,000 a year, like one evaporator, 32 hours, like it only takes a day.
Yeah,
like you do a few of those a week, you know, you're making 150, 200 hours a week, working 40 hours a week.
That's pretty good.
That's where you make your money as a technician.
Yeah.
Like I was pretty efficient, so like, you know, you could make 70% more than time you were there hours wise.
And then like some cars you level up to be able to work on certain vehicles, right? Because like not everybody at the dealership can work on the latest and greatest. Like you were saying, you have to go get your certifications. Yeah, they just kind of...
Well, you end up like whoever's dispatching at that point, like the new SLS AMG comes in or the new GT comes in for some weird problem. Like you're not going to give that to the new guy because he's not going to be able to fix it. And you're going to have a bad customer.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, as long as the dealership has its certifications, like unless something went bad, like then at that point warranty wouldn't pay for it because the tech wasn't certified to do it. Like when hybrids first came out, it was like that. Like we had cones, like you had to have a high voltage certified. Everyone did basic high voltage training to know don't touch the orange cables, push them away with a wooden stick, like this kind of thing. But whoever to work on
like the fireman sign on there where it's like cut here.
Right. To work on the car, you had to have been through the certifications, which were in Jacksonville offsite to do the power down, to work on. There's a power down procedure. A form would come out that you like put on the car that the high voltage battery is powered down, so it's safe to work on the electrical system. You could touch the things and not die.
Huh.
Then like now, it's the hybrid technician needs to do the power down, but then like other people can work on it. And like, I don't even know if the systems have gotten better too. Like it's hard to get injured by a high voltage system in a car now.
Yeah. I don't know if I've heard of many people getting hurt by high voltage systems in cars either.
Right. Like maybe when like Prius stuff like first came out, but now like there's, besides the power down procedure, like there's not this complicated power down where you had to do with the special scan tool. Like right now, if you disconnect 12 volt, the high voltage is going to power down.
It's pretty good safety.
If you unplug almost, like there's interlock connectors everywhere. There's markings on the cars. Usually it's on the glass. Like if you see little arrows to where there's a wire or something there for firemen because they all do training, or it's on the label on the gas door on where there's a wire to cut to power down a vehicle if it's in an accident. Because if the system's compromised, it may not function normally.
Yeah.
So then there's like a secondary power down.
Yeah, and a lot of them now, like in a crash, they will power down, but if they don't, they got to have... Right. The firemen have to know what they're doing.
Yeah, so that's like where the glass, like the arrows on the glass, like that's your cut line. Mm-hmm. So like there's nothing in that line. So if you're using like the jaws of life kind of thing, you're not going to cut through a high voltage cable.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Seems hectic.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's not fun to just be like, yeah, you know that wire that's like an inch thick?
Yeah.
Just right through that one. That's fine.
Yeah, so the certification thing is, yes, the dealership needs to be certified. You got to have someone in each level certified. They get incentives and kickbacks depending on how many people are certified, so what levels, blah, blah, blah. And you're not going to give a job to a person that you know is going to fail at it.
Yeah.
Because like it's not good for anything. It's not good for the person. It's not good for the customer. Not good for the dealership.
That seems like the logical thinking there.
Really, that's kind of what it comes down to. It's a judgment thing. But at the end of the day, you, sadly, as a really good diagnostic or better technician, you'll get punished a lot in a sense that if you're just like a really mediocre technician, like you're going to do oil changes and brakes all day because like, oh no, you can't give him that electrical problem because he's going to work on it for 3 days and never figure it out.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't get paid, but then the dealership doesn't get paid.
And then you have a guy that could be doing oil changes.
But the oil changes it pay more essentially, or the brake jobs. Like
Well, it gets cars out the door.
it's a balancing act as a team leader for dispatching work to making sure that you're being fair, but at the same time being fair to the customer.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing as a customer. Like I would never want to be a customer, have any car to bring a car in somewhere that was like if it's warranty, I guess it's not as bad because you're getting a loaner. But at the end of the day, if it's a car you like, it's still getting like taken apart and things are happening to it.
Yeah, I've personally never really went to dealers at all.
Yeah.
And I've always avoided cars that like are dealership locked in a way. Like like it's always felt to me like a new Mercedes or an Audi or something like that is like locked to the dealership where it's
And
like
it really is.
if you want to get anything done on this car, you better show up at
It really is.
at Audi's door.
Yeah.
And you have a couple of those. And you've had a few, so
For sure. Anyway, so I really like the brand. I did good right away when I started working for Benz. I went to all the trainings. I always did all the online trainings. Like if there was any like challenges or tests or things they had, like I always tried to enter those. So that kept me pretty high up. And like you get a master level certification after a certain amount of credits and time. I think it was 3 years. And then after that, they had I had won a Service Laureates Award. So the first time it happened, I didn't even know it was going on. Apparently, they were taking the fixed right first visit is the metric that they measure because
how many times did he have to come back for it to be fixed right?
Right, because
it's a sad metric
so the
in a way.
the dealership gets paid off of that, like from Mercedes. Like there's a bonus tied to that because it's costing them more money if it has to come back.
And it looks really bad if you have a car that
costing
has
them more
to
money.
go to the dealership
Right, you have
six times.
You have an unhappy customer. Right, they don't want to buy a Mercedes anymore.
I don't blame them.
So turns out they were taking the top 14 in the country, and it was like a 7-day trip to Germany and like tour the factories and all that stuff. And
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I won that 3 years in a row. I think it was like
Oh shit.
13 or 12, 13 or 13, 14, 15.
That's actually a pretty good like win. That's not like a pizza party.
No,
That's
it was
actually like a cool.
It was a cool. The first one I actually didn't get to go, and my service manager Emil was still in Fort Pierce. He punished me in a way. I rode motocross then, and I would pretty much every year I'd have an injury that put me out for a month because that's how motocross is.
Yeah, 2 wheels.
And there's nothing he could do about it. But he lost one of his best technicians for a month. So, and at that dealer, it was a small dealership. There was only 12 techs at that dealer.
Yeah.
Where Tampa, there was 60 of us.
Holy shit, that's a lot of That's a lot of techs.
Oh, they still have it?
I didn't realize it was that big of a dealership.
120 on average cars a day in for service.
Wow, I did not realize it was that big of a dealership at all.
Yeah, it's giant.
Yeah.
Physical size isn't that big. It needs to be bigger than that.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of people. Yeah.
So I was like, I had come back and like I had got like some certificate and a thing, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you won that, but you couldn't go on the Germany trip because you were hurt." I was like really mad. But
Come on, you could have hobbled around the Germany trip.
I think it was a punishment in a sense.
Yeah.
But I showed him I won it the next year, and I had to go because that was okay. And then actually, with the year I moved to Tampa, 2015, I had won it again. So I went twice.
Okay. Yeah. So you won it 3 times, went twice to Germany.
Yeah, and that was cool because they like red carpet into like all like not allowed to bring your phone into AMG to where they're building the engines, where they're building the cars. Like we started at the manufacturer, like they're forging the steel to where like the car's driving out.
Yeah.
Which is like a city, like the biggest
their
factory
like,
there.
campus is like
There's 40 restaurants and like their own power plant, and, like just massive scale.
I've always been pretty fascinated by the AMG engine building program because they actually whatever you say about the cars, their engines are super legit. And
one
V12s
man,
and stuff.
one man, one engine. It's hand assembled by one person,
Super
start
cool.
to finish. Like it's neat. It really is. It was really cool. It was cool to be a part of it.
They have some cool engines and cars and stuff like that. It's almost a shame that like they don't get the aftermarket like maybe like BMW and Audi gets.
Yeah, they're locked down more. Like there's a small aftermarket there, like, but it's just I tell everyone it's like it's not the car to do that. Like
it would be cool though because some of them, especially some of like the older ones, had some like high power capable engines. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, like it's a twin turbo V8, but like you can't do anything with it. It's
No,
like,
yeah,
oh,
you could
come
like
on.
tune it and put a downpipe on it, and like that's like pretty much the end of it. You're gonna really mess things up.
Yeah, but they would give you so much like on the outside appearing cool hardware and then like
It would.
not let you have at it.
Yeah, it's just not the car for it.
So, have you ever wanted like other platforms? Like the Coyote's great and all, but like has the allure ever been there for like a different engine? Even like now as you like start to really ring out the Coyote, are you like, like you know, I learned all this, but like I could take that and like step up to something like that has more capability.
Right. Well, I think that
But I don't know what that would be.
I don't know. I'm still just having a blast. Like I think far ahead, but I don't think that far ahead when it comes to that stuff in a sense to where like I would never told you we would be here talking today and my car would be nearly as fast as it is. And it's not done yet. Maybe the day that it's just like, all right, like this is it. Like it's never going to do more than what you want it to do. But like right now, like drag and drive capability is still like number one on my list for the car that I own and race. And yeah, I'm going to keep rocking that engine. Like,
Really, drag and drive is still like peak in your mind.
so right
on, like,
now,
what to do with the car.
we have the like having a goal to achieve besides just like winning that event or like a points championship is fun because it's more of a long-term thing. Like, and what we did last year at Sick Week was like, it was secretly that's what I wanted to do going into that race. I didn't know if it was going to be possible. And then second day, Jeff had a bad pass and handed in something not that quick. And then I saw the opportunity, and that's when we really put our heads down and went for it. And we did it, and we won the overall. Now that puts us third, like all-time overall for any drag and drive.
Yeah.
Average, the 634,
So it would be Lutz, Bailey.
and then me.
Yeah.
It's a six. There's a 619.7 and a 6.
I think it's Lutz.
Yeah, Lutz
Or-
is 619.
Is it Lutz or
Bailey has the fastest pass ever,
yeah.
and then Lutz has the fastest average.
Okay.
So it's like, could we beat a 619 average?
I mean, it's very possible. Right? I mean, it's definitely
I mean, one of those cars probably definitely can. Like, I feel like there's going to be. I think this year is going to be. We're going to have our hands full. I think there's going to
Yeah.
be some big tire guys out there. Like, okay, we can't let this radio guy do this to us.
or even another small tire guy, but I don't know who.
Well, it'd be Devin. Devin's car is going to run.
It'd have
as
to be
good, but,
Devin.
like he stripped it all the way down to nothing. And I don't know if you saw like to get weight out of it because that car was heavy. It was, 3,100 or maybe a little more.
Building a convertible, who would have thought? Wouldn't be heavy.
Well, no, but he had like air jacks and stuff in it. Like.
Well, he's bougie.
No, yeah, but it was awesome. Like it was definitely a more of a driving car or it was a really good blend of both.
He's a bit bougie like that, though.
Yeah,
he
where me,
needs
I'm
all
like
that
unbolting
fancy.
my windows every day because like I don't care if it takes me 10 minutes to unbolt my windows.
Yeah. So, I mean, it'd be really crazy to see the smallest motor on the list, the smallest tire on the list, even bump up one more to number 2 on the list.
Like it's not out of reach, right? So
Yeah.
like why not pursue it?
I get that. I guess I didn't realize you were that passionate about drag and drive stuff. I know, like, it's the opportunity is so easy because it's so close.
Sure.
Like when it was Rocky Mountains, it was like, it's like all the way out there.
Yeah.
But being so close, I figured it was more of like, it's like right here. I might as well like, it's a good race and it's fun,
Right.
but it's also being so close, kind of.
Well, I think it just kind of separates my car from every other fast race car. There's plenty of cars that are as fast or faster than my car. But like the versatility of my car is what really makes it a lot of fun to me because it's not just, an X275 or an LDR car, which those cars are super impressive in all their own rights, making the combos work for the constantly changing rule sets and being as fast as they are. But like for us in the style of racing we do, like the tracks are changing consistently. The conditions, the weather, all that kind of stuff. And then you add a drag and drive into that to a set of variables that you don't even know what they're going to be because it's over 5 days at 4 different racetracks.
You do know the variables are going to suck. You know that. You know it's going to be tough.
Right. Like,
And you know there's going to be days with shit track prep or
or
you're going to
30
show
degrees.
up to...
This day's hot. This day's cold because we're in Georgia.
You're going to show up in
it's
Gainesville and be
raining.
like, oh, shit.
You missed the first pass, and now your fastest attempt is over.
Yeah. It's that challenge that's very different than other...
Yeah, it's not like a normal, you're not heads up racing. It's a totally different set of challenges. And like when you take off, you feel it, the feeling never changes. First day, like setup day, test day is cool. But like when you hook up and you pull out of OSW or wherever the first track is, and you go out on the road and you're sitting in my car, which is not a comfortable street car, and it's pretty loud and, things, and you're just like, this is it. We have a week of this, and we have how many ever 100 miles, and anything could fail or not make it.
Kind of cruising at, I don't know, what, 60?
60, or someone could pull out in front of you and wreck you because like your visibility is not that great.
That's happened to a few Dragon drivers.
You know what I mean?
Seen.
Like, it's really unknown variables to where like normal class racing, it's pretty much the same variables every weekend, just depending on like track conditions or
you
or
broke
weather
your hitch
conditions.
recently.
Oh yeah, like
The last one.
we had a failure every single day, but the last day,
Oh yeah, you
last
lost the
track
bumper as well.
right, due to the hitch issue and then the rear gear, up to Georgia.
Oh yeah, I do remember that one as well. That was quite a week.
Yeah, it was a long one, but like that's just it. Like
Yeah.
you're just in it. Like you just figure it out.
So your car, I feel like, has, the old car, you had more engine capability than chassis.
Yeah.
Now you have more, like, you still again seem like you have more engine capability than chassis,
We're getting there.
which is interesting because, like, I did not think that it was gonna. I didn't think that this chassis you were gonna like max it out with that engine combo, but it seems like it's pretty far along to what it can do.
It's far along. We're running it hard. Like
1060 foots.
Yeah, like it went 105 or 1049 on that 399 pass, and that was with some weight on the nose that shouldn't really be up there, and that was like the next setting past that. Like it was on a 102 60 foot, but it tried to flip over. Like so, it was like we had to slow it down to that. So like traction was there, but the wheelie aspect of it's not there. Like where like if you look at the back splits, like it's not fast enough to the 330 for the eighth time that's running. Like,
yeah. So for people that don't know, when you look at a time slip, if you really know what you're doing, you start to do some math on the 60 to 330. And then you do the
330 to the 8.
Yeah,
like
and then you do 330
how long it
to
took
the
you
8,
to get to that section of the track or this section.
See, even me, I don't do it on my car because not quite fast enough to me. I don't need to do it frequently. Done it a couple times, but it's like, okay, it doesn't really change a whole lot.
Yeah. So we see ET there. Like you see ET, you see the ET and you go after it. Like that's just what it is. So it's like, okay, we can make it wheelie less. Like the chassis is starting to.
But based on like what you see ET there, based on someone else's pass,
or based on
what you think it can do,
or based on the fact that it was on a 102, it had enough traction and power to go 102, but it was trying a wheelie. So that you need to fix that with wrenches.
Yes, but
you fix it with the keyboard, it just slows you down, which is what we did that night to be able to complete
when you were
the run.
racing Keith.
No, that was the night we went 399.
Okay, yeah, that was the night I went 399.
Yeah.
And it was in eighth mile trim that time.
Yeah, it didn't have enough gear ratio to make it to the quarter. Like we went through high gear, at the engine speed we went to at the eighth.
Because I was thinking about the other pass at Mod Knots when you raced, or was that the reunion when you and Keith raced? Yeah.
The finals, that was the best race of my life.
And Keith was on here right before that, and he said he came down here to beat you.
Yeah, oh yeah, I've beat him a couple times now, so he's really wanting to beat me.
Yeah, and then it was.
And I love
really
it. Like,
close
car's so
race.
fast, and he's such a good racer. Like
it was one of the best races of the night. I mean, I think everybody was on the starting line for that one.
It had to been for a long time. Like, what did we were side by side 230, like 0.0 something win margin. Like it was sketchy because I've never someone is there. But like going through and then the shutdown process with 2 cars and 4 shoots out at 230,
yeah, you can feel
at night at BMP when it's dark. And
You
then,
can
like,
feel when a car's like right on you, which is an awesome feeling.
and then
It's like,
you're pulling the steering wheel off, trying because you're like
yeah.
literally like nosing them at the finish line.
And that's rare that there's races that are that close in like our style racing.
Yeah, that's
you
what I
know,
think.
like in X275 and like LDR and stuff. Like every race is like that, but like
Yeah.
in streetcar ish or like
Well, in the quarter mile form, other than NHRA, there's none like that because like the eighth mile, even when they get that close, it seems like it's over so fast it doesn't get as dramatic
yeah.
as the quarter mile stuff because you have like you're watching the race for a longer period of
Yeah,
time.
there's no way to come around somebody in an eighth mile race, really.
Yeah,
like,
it's one at the 330 or the 60 foot. Like,
yeah, it's like pretty over. But like a race like that, and especially because your car kind of does some like, it kind of creeps out on people the way that you guys use it,
right.
where it can actually like edge people out, which is pretty crazy to see. Even when you raced,
It's fast past 100 foot.
I'm thinking of Cocomelon,
Yeah.
where it was out on you,
Yeah.
and then you creeped up.
Yeah, you don't want to if you're next to me at 100 foot, like you want to be way ahead of me because it's not gonna like.
I think you beat Garrett a similar way, where you guys were next to each other, and then I don't know if his car spun that time.
He spun that time.
Yeah.
It,
I think it was gonna.
yeah, it was, that was when it went.
He would have had.
six.
He would have had you though. Not
All
laughing.
the comments definitely said he would have had me.
And not to like laughing at like a 630 like 640 car. Like obviously it's incredibly fast.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like I'm not.
well, that's just like our rivalry online or
Yeah.
whatever. Like the two cars, actually, not us. Like
yeah, reminiscing on some passes now here that people are going to be like, why don't you put them all in? Let me just go find all 50 of your passes here real quick.
yeah, right.
And even TX2K this year, where you were with Lund, and you know it's a Brett Lasala podcast, so you have to talk shit about Lund. So
Oh, no.
I'm just kidding. We could actually clear some of that up though.
yeah, sure.
That you know you and Lund have a good relationship and
we
are
have
friends.
we have a great relationship. We are. Well, I'm seeing him Monday. My Falcon. We're gonna play with it on his dyno. Like,
There you go. Because every time you go on a podcast, somehow it ends with people thinking you are talking shit
know.
about.
I think
Lund.
whoever's podcasting me knows how to trigger something with me and Motec or Stock ECU, and then he's the best Stock ECU tuner, so then he gets like put into it. You know, like
Yeah, and somehow it just ends up as being like a rivalry of
yeah.
you two, and not just a rivalry of like the cars, which is normal, like you know, like you and Garrett,
right.
car rivalry, but like you know, you guys actually talk and you help him at points.
Yeah, I'm always confused when I see something like that because I'm like, oh no, I don't know. Like I'm like, yeah, we're fine. Like
The rivalries in racing usually start and end like at the starting line, and then like you know when you turn off, it's kind of over at that point.
sure.
It's not really too serious, maybe because I'm not that serious of a person.
I'm sure there's some more people that like just don't like a person for not liking a person, and then that's just more of a personal rivalry that they're taking out in racing.
Yeah. Jim's rivalries seem like they're just with people that make rules.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where it usually happens with him. It's just like him and like the tech guy or the rule guy
Right, he always ends up at tech for some reason or another.
fighting with someone.
Playing with someone, yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's just cut and dry. If it's not cut and dry, then Jim's gonna find the way to tell you you're wrong.
Yeah, his car is pretty cheatered up. I keep getting on him for that because
Jim's car, that thing is a stock Mustang 3-link. I mean, we put a little wider wheel on it so it looks better, so it doesn't have to sit all tall anymore. But you know,
yeah, of course.
that's just move the wheel in
Just to lower it just a little
just a
bit.
list of just for looks and aero.
Yeah.
A little lower.
It's not easy to lower those stock suspension S197s.
They all poke the wheel out like
Yeah.
after you get one like mini tubbed and down, but it's a lot of effort to do that, so there's not a lot of them like that, right?
Yeah.
But,
Well, his
man,
car-
it looks so much better.
His car was pretty sketchy going 200.
Oh yeah, I need more roll cage, no doubt. I mean, like I did it with the green car when I first had it. You know, like I went 690, 200 with 10-point.
Yeah, it's sketchy.
It was-
That's wild.
But it's like all the modern cars, the chassis are so good that you can get away with it because they don't flex that much. But if you're crashed, then you're gonna not be safe. But at some point, it still is flexing. Like his car will race better with the cage. Like
It'll be more consistent and
yeah,
everything.
there's
of course,
there's no doubt it's gonna race better.
And with all the new suspension stuff in the back and
Well, it's just 3-link.
yeah,
New shock.
the 3-link, yeah, 9-inch at least.
Right, it's heavier.
Yeah.
Takes more horsepower to turn.
Yeah, sounds like James with his 8.8 in the 240.
It's true.
But I think he's only like 1,800 pounds, so it kind of you can kind of get away with that when you're 1,800 pounds. But
Right,
that's
right.
why, like, when a gust of wind hits the track, you see his car shift, like a light breeze, and suddenly his car's like moving around at the top end.
Yeah.
You're like, maybe that's why, you know?
That's like the Fox bodies like doing quarter mile stuff. I think when Curtis was racing the reunion or whatever, he made a couple passes and he's like, this thing is not happy up at like 1,000 feet, like feels sketchy. And I'm like, my car's a Cadillac. It's long, it's heavy. I'm sure like I haven't raced a light car as fast as I'm going, but I'm sure there's a difference.
Well, even like Curtis's car, when he was shutting it down, was dragging the
skis,
the wheelie skis at like, 1,500 feet when he pulled the chutes and everything, which looks sketchy because like then you're really unsettling the car.
Yeah, I learned a lot about parachutes and shutting down with my car last year, with like that video, the clip we showed where like they didn't come out and the brakes were glowing because they were tangled up. Like that was, I changed the rear wing, and where the parachutes had always worked, they were in the back pointing out. When I put the big side plates on with the carbon wing, we caught it on a rear camera because the next pass we assumed that we didn't pack them right because we were rushing and they were really old. There were so many holes in them and stuff, and I just didn't want to buy new ones because I was being cheap. And we were like, oh, okay, like that's probably what happened. And then Ray Garrett, and we were watching the footage on the 360 because I was ahead of him, so we had to watch the back footage. And
that was nice of him to get that video of you, the trail car.
Yeah, the trail car. And I saw in the camera they came out, they hit the ground, they fumbled around, tangled up, and they almost didn't deploy that time either. The ropes were tangled and the chutes were just out. So there was a dead airspace behind the car. They weren't getting into the wind.
I saw it happen with Leroy once where pulled the chute and the chute went like whoop and then landed next to him on the passenger seat. But the arrow on that thing is like
like nothing. So
no
like,
one even knows.
We're like, holy crap, like, that's the thing. So we remade the chutes so now they're above the wing. Because I went to Orlando like that next week and there was an import race there and they all go 240, 250 to the quarter. So I'm like, let me go get some inspiration off these cars.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, there's not one of these that have the parachutes tucked under the wing. Looks cool.
It's nice and it doesn't get wet.
And the car doesn't get as long, but like there's probably a reason for it, and that was probably why. So we moved my chutes and that was fine.
Yeah, there's like little things like that again you won't know until you just like have to know.
But when the dual chutes hit at 220 plus or whatever, it's like negative 3.5 Gs or something.
Yeah, and you have those like really long chutes too, compared to most.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's just the chute that you like or.
Well, they work better when they're long. It's just stable. Like you look at land speed cars, are even longer. I want to stay, and I still haven't played with it. I don't know it'll work because you would need different lengths to stage them, so it doesn't disrupt the car so bad. Like land speed cars, they have a 200 mile an hour chute and then a 300 mile an hour chute. So a small one comes out and then a big one comes out.
Interesting.
So you slow down and stage it. So like if one hit, then the other one hit instead of just both hit. Like that's why his car was then dragging his skis, and then you get in the negative bump steer, which no one calculates for. And if you see cars that are darty when the chute's out, it's because the suspension's in negative, it's in compression, and it has bump steer can happen there too.
That's what Aaron at Ninth Moto had with the Viper, where when the chutes came out, the car was trying to shift lanes.
Yeah. So that's negative bump steer.
Yeah, and that it's a Viper, so they already have all that downforce and stuff.
And he probably runs a wide tire on the front of that car too. So
yeah, full size.
So that makes that even worse.
The car would literally just like shift lanes.
Yeah.
And yeah, not fun. What's like what's the carrot in front of the car that like keeps like, okay, so you're faster than all the cars at TX2K, you were faster than all the cars at World Cup, you won Mod Knots, you won this, that.
I wasn't faster than all the cars at World Cup. I raced better at that outing.
Okay. So you won World Cup.
I won World Cup.
But like a lot of people like would struggle to have the motivation, I feel like, to keep like progressing with the car, and it almost feels like you think someone's right behind you, like about to get you, but they're not that close.
Yeah, I think that's kind of always how I've been, and it's not even like that someone's gonna catch me. It's just that I like keep progressing. Like if I would just do the same thing, I would be bored or not interested.
But at some point, like it does seem almost psychotic. In a way?
Yeah.
Maybe? Yeah?
Yeah.
And, Tanner at TBM actually said that. He was like, Brad's crazy. He just keeps working on that car.
Yeah, he calls me. Yeah, he's like, you're a psycho. And
yeah.
I'm like, maybe.
And, like, Tanner got a fast car, too, but he's kind of just like, yeah, like, all right,
No, it's just my thing, man. It's what I love, what I'm into, what I think about most of the day or at night.
Maybe that's also why you've attracted the people that are similar mindset. Because it's funny, even Jim's not of that mindset at all.
Mm-hmm.
But his car is going to be really impressive just by.
And his car always has been really impressive.
Always has been, but just by like, you know.
But it's a version that we've already,
Yeah.
you know, vetted or know, like we know how fast it's going to be, and it's just going to always do that. And he can help with, you know, he can help with mine and get that fixed through me.
And then Job, who is on a lot of the tuning, also seems psychotic about the incremental changes on everything. And
yeah, Job is
the data.
He's on another level completely.
I think we might actually get him on.
Yeah, he talked about it. He said we would like to do one with me or something one time or something, or you know, maybe by himself. I'm not sure, but that would be cool.
Some point we'll get Jay.
But yeah, his analysis capability and finding stuff and knowledge is
so
something I've never seen.
Kind of just by being crazy about the car, you've attracted other fellow crazy people to help you with the car. And somehow Tia is okay with it.
Crazy. Well, I've always been like this and with the car. So when Tia met me, she knew, and she was smart enough to know that people don't change. And it was like, hey, this is going to be it. And, you know, it's just, like I said, it's why I'm sitting here, right? It's why I'm working for Motion. I get to do what I love to do.
Yeah.
I get to still spend all my money on my car and go racing. And
it was funny. I was talking to Tia one time at the race, and she's like, I don't like it. Everybody's like keeps touching his car, and like because she's like, I was used to just like, you know, him touching it, and now there's like all these people messing with it, and she's like, I don't like it. There's too many people touching it.
She doesn't like other people working on it because she doesn't think that they'll do what I would have done and maybe make a mistake or forget something, and then us either like she won't let anyone but Jim or myself touch my parachutes. Like
I've always refused to put my hand on any part of that car because I'm like, well, this isn't like
but like
my
if someone
deal.
else be like, oh, you're gonna like don't let them do that just because she wants me to do well. So like you know, like,
and that's why I've never laid my hands on it. I'm like, maybe if they need like help, you know, like pushing it, maybe.
Right.
But I've avoided that because I'm like with race cars, people have their process, and like you don't really want to just like get in there because then like, wait, did you close the catch can or did I?
Absolutely. That's why we have that list on sick week and stuff, and that's not even from other people helping, just because there's so much going on. And like it's the same thing at a race. Like you can forget something, or the people that I do have that are available to help when they are available, like they know like the one thing that they're going to do, and usually it's not that.
Yeah, what people don't realize is on sick week, you guys usually have a ton of help in secret.
Yeah, right.
A bunch of people just show up all of a sudden.
No way, man. The technically like, who's that? Don't let him look at your car. And I'm like, I know.
End up in quarantine all the time.
Oh, we're most protested car in drag racing, probably.
Yeah, because of the front end.
For sick week that time.
Yeah, your 3-piece.
It's always something. There's always something, but that's gonna be any car that's winning. I feel like there's gonna be people looking at it to find a reason not to win. Like, why wouldn't you? Like,
I mean, it's pretty.
And I would want, like, I want to be fair. Like, I'm not gonna cheat. Like, cheating to win isn't a good way to win.
Yeah, the rules are pretty well written for a reason.
Right. But if the rule is not written very well and there's a thing that is borderline, then that's up to the tech guy. So
gray area racing is fair. I think that's normal. I think that's what people should do.
It has to be normal. How it's an interpretation at a point.
Yeah. There's cheating and then there's gray area racing.
Right.
You either interpret the rules or you interpret them differently on purpose. And some people do that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that can happen.
You kind of just read them like this. You just think,
Yeah, and you end up in it so deep that you don't even realize you're doing it, probably.
I like the way Garrett does it, and he asks people to make the rules fit his car.
Yeah.
Like World Cup a couple times it said like El Camino with twin 76.
That was the first year that they opened up the rules and it was El Camino.
It said El Camino in a red, like it just
like at his weight or whatever. Yeah. And then they did the same thing for a Mustang, and it was actually geared towards my car. But luckily, there's more than one Mustang.
Yeah.
With 76s, so there was like 5 cars entered under that rule. So I didn't
they actually
get
did
pointed
it for,
at.
Yeah, they did it for Doug too, though.
Right. Yeah. So Nova went LT at like 3310 or something.
Yeah. There's special treatment sometimes in this world. But all right, we'll wrap it up there. I know you don't really post much on your YouTube channel. I tried, guys. Tried to get him to post on YouTube
I just don't have the
or any social media.
time to make the videos.
And now you have a media
Or to
team.
do that.
So
At
Motion. That
there's no. It's just us. Like there's
Yeah.
no media team.
it's a team.
It's a team.
It's a prika
It's a-
sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so where can we direct people to? I mean, are customer service-ish? I wouldn't say customer service-ish for Rife, right? You kind of help people with their Rife stuff in a way, with
Yeah.
sensors and stuff.
Well, yeah, I do that. Just a business development manager for all brands under Motion, but specifically right now is going to be Rife and FluidWorks. So, yes, I will also do customer service, but then
It's
product
like
development.
saying customer service sounds bad, but like race cars need like a
At the track.
white glove treatment
Yeah.
on a lot of this stuff, and like
Right.
coaching on like figuring some of this stuff out. So it's more like it's not just like, answering a phone all day.
Oh yeah, no, I don't have a phone that answer.
Yeah, I
there's
didn't
no
think so.
there's no number directly.
But yeah, that's kind of how I was, I guess, imagining it, that some of these guys need a little bit of coaching.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard if you don't know how to set up or have the proper data or proper sensors or parts. Then yeah, like if you don't have anyone to ask, then yeah, I mean that's one of the great things about Motion is we all race cars and know what you need or what if we have it or if we don't have it to be able to get you set up right.
Yeah. Well, interesting. So I guess follow you on Instagram. I know you don't really post much there either.
Well, I haven't been racing much this summer. I post more
That's true.
when I'm racing. Yeah, Instagram would be the spot, or we'll go watch the YouTube videos that are there about the car because there was some good ones last year.
Yeah, there's actually,
there.
if you just type in Snot Rocket 2.0, there's great videos across the board from 1320, from TRC.
Yeah.
Real Street has a couple of.
Type in like Brett Lasala or Snot Rocket. My
Yeah.
name brings up most of the stuff associated with the car.
Quite
You
a
get
lot of
less
good
boogers
videos
in
on there.
Yeah, there's definitely been a bunch.
Yeah, so guys, go check it out. But that'll do it. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.